I am not the sort of person about whom stories are told. Those of humble birth suffer their heartbreaks and celebrate their triumphs unnoticed by the bards, leaving no trace in the fables of their time. Raised on a meagre farm with 5 brothers, I knew that the expected course of my life was to be married off at 16, to work a similarly poor piece of property with my own brood of underfed children. It was a path I would have followed without question had it not been for my mother. I must start my tale with her, for all the events that followed, all the wonders and horrors I have witnessed in my many years upon this earth, began with a seed she planted in my soul almost from birth, a deep-rooted, unshakable certainty that I was meant to be more than a peasant's wife. Every time Mother corrected my grammar or admonished me to stand up straight, it was with an eye to my future, a reminder that despite my ragtag clothes, I must comport myself with the manners of my betters. For she herself was proof that great changes in fortune were possible. Born into a poor servant family and orphaned at a young age, she had risen to a position as sempstress at the castle of St. Elsip, seat of the king who ruled our lands. The castle! How I used to dream of it, envisioning an edifice of soaring turrets and polished marble that bore little resemblance to the hulking fortress I would later know so well. My girlish fascination extended into imagined conversations with elegant ladies and gallant knights, fantasies my mother did her best to suppress, for she knew all too well the dangers that came from putting on airs above one's station. My mother rarely spoke of her youth, but I hoarded the few stories she told me, like a ragman collecting scraps, wondering why she had given up her position as a cosseted royal servant for a life of crushing drudgery. Once her slim fingers had caressed silk threads and rich velvets. Now her hands were chapped and reddened from years of scrubbing, her face set most often in an expression of weary resignation. The only times I remember her smiling were during the private moments we stole together, in between the baby feedings and the planting and the harvesting, those precious hours when she taught me to read and write. Most of my practice was done in the dirt at the side of the house, using a stick to form the lines and swirls of the words. If I spotted my father approaching, I would hastily rub out the scribbles with my feet and scramble to find a chore to occupy myself. To him, an idle child was a wicked one, and a daughter had no cause to learn her letters. Elise Dalriss was known in our parts as a hard man, and the description was apt. His eyes were the cold grey blue of stone, and his hands had been gnarled and roughened by a lifetime of physical labour. When he slapped me, it felt like a blow from a shovel. His voice was gruff and harsh, and he used his words sparingly, as if uttering each one caused great physical effort. Though I felt no affection for my father, I did not hate him either. He was simply an unpleasant feature of my existence, much like the mud that clung to my feet each spring, or the hungry ache that filled my stomach instead of food. I took his harshness as nothing more than the usual resentment of a poor man toward a daughter who will cost him a dowry. It was not until I was 10 years old that I learned the true reason he had never loved me, and never would. It was a Saturday morning, and I had accompanied my mother to the weekly market at our local village, a gathering of some dozen houses a half-hour's walk from our ramshackle one-room cottage. Farmers and townspeople would meet to haggle over a meagre range of scraps, a few turnips or onions, small sacks of salt or sugar, perhaps a pig or a lamb. Rarely did coins change hands. More often meat or eggs were exchanged for pieces of cloth or barrels of ale. The luckiest sellers claimed a spot in front of the church, where they could stand on the clean, dry flagstones. The rest simply stopped their carts in the middle of the muddy road that passed through town. A few of the more prosperous farmers would tap into their ale barrels and remain there most of the morning, laughing and slapping one another's backs as their faces grew redder. My father was never among these men, drunkenness being one of the many weaknesses he despised in others. The market was a place to exchange gossip as much as goods, for which reason most women lingered longer than it took them to stock up on supplies. My mother never paused after her business was conducted. It seemed she had taken my father's disparagement of the villagers' idleness to heart.